Welcome. My name is Kate Lewis, and I'm the departmental advisor for the School of Math. I really want to welcome all of you to the Math Department information session. We are so glad to have you join us. And I might be a bit biased, but I think we have a wonderful program ahead for you to help you understand the math major better, to perhaps answer some of the questions that you have about the math major, or give you a forum to get those questions addressed, and perhaps to come a little bit closer to gaining insight as to whether this major might be a good fit for you, given your interests and what your career goals might be. So what we're looking at today is, for our agenda, you're going to hear from the head of the School of Mathematics, also from our interim director of undergraduate studies. We'll provide you with a brief overview of the BS Mathematics program. And then lastly, but certainly not least, we have a panel of our current undergraduate math majors from diverse areas and backgrounds and experiences that are here to share their story with you and to answer any questions that you might have about the math major. So with that said, I am going to turn this over to Ben Brubaker, who is our head of the School of Math. And Ben, if you would like to present, and please just tell me when I should advance the screen for you.
Yeah, I'll give you the baseball sign.
Sure.
So thanks everybody for joining us today. My name is Ben Brubaker. I'm the head of the School of Mathematics, and I'm so happy that you're here to hear about some of the offerings in the math department. If you're thinking about being a math major, I hope it's first and foremost because you love mathematics and you love the mathematics that you're learning in your classes. So you're thinking about maybe what you could do with a math major that could turn that love of mathematics into an everyday experience. You know, the reason I became a math major is because I simply loved the classes I was taking, but I'm not going to talk about that today. Instead, Kate asked me to talk a little bit about the ways in which mathematics can be relevant in society today. In particular, I think young people these days really want to make a difference in the world in what they do for the rest of their lives. And that's a wonderful impetus. And I just wanted to take some snapshots of the daily news to tell you how mathematics could help you make that a reality. So just to prove to you that math is relevant every single day, I took this morning's New York Times. I highlighted it, comes from Friday, October 8th. You can check me. In fact, in my New York Times app, it lets me actually download the front page. For those young people out there, the newspaper used to be made out of paper, and it would look something like this when you first saw it. So I thought I'd step through the articles on the front page and talk about the ways in which a math major might help you make a difference in the world. So Kate, let's look at the next slide. Okay, so the first article that I gravitated towards was this article about the election and how there were what the New York Times calls baseless claims of election fraud. This is a little bit of a subtle way in which the math major helps you become a beneficial member of society. It gives you the critical thinking skills to assess for yourself whether these claims are fact or fiction, to give you the rational thinking skills to be able to analyze complicated situations like this. So if we click forward, you'll see that Math 3283W, which is called Sequences, Series, and Foundations, you'd never guess it from the title. It allows you to explore these logical thinking skills that kind of supercharge your deductive reasoning abilities and allow you to make smart, critical decisions that are the basis of any well-run society. I have this picture of an hourglass here because I know we'll talk more about this as the hour goes on, but in our curriculum, 3283W is like the pinch point in that hourglass. So you are all probably taking some flavor of calculus in the beginning part of your study. You'll hit that hourglass shape with 3283W and then expand to all the choices that come thereafter. Okay, let's look at another story on the front page today. So here we have a story about climate change, which is on a lot of people's minds all the time. Here we see that scientists are warning that nations must make a sharp turn away from fossil fuels. This is no news to many of us. And if we advance it one further, we see that indeed there are math classes that respond to that challenge. In particular, I've highlighted two. One is mathematical modeling, which teaches you the basic principles of taking any real world situation and then crafting a model, a mathematical model to capture the essential behavior of that. So that's an opportunity for you to learn the tools of what might go into assessing the models for climate, say. Or then later on in your career, you might consider a 5,000 level math class like dynamical systems and chaos. Weather is an extremely complicated thing to model, and it needs that time component in it, which is what makes it a dynamical system. So if you're interested in modeling weather, you might consider dynamical systems and chaos. I don't mean to sell this short. It's not like you take the math class and instantly you become an absolute professional to solve climate issues, but we are giving you the tools that you need to go on further to solve those problems. Okay, the next story that Kate has up here is a story about vaccinations and Pfizer looking to get authorization to give vaccinations to children. Once again, we have math courses that can address some of those problems. If we step forward, you see that probability and statistics and stochastic processes are two courses you could take to learn the data analysis you'd need in order to become an epidemiologist. But on top of that, we in fact have an entire specialization in the math major for math biology. And I've just, I don't know, dynamical systems and chaos somehow ended up on as a typo there. But the one math biology course I wanted to highlight is math 5445, mathematical analysis of biological networks. Just an example of the ways that you can learn the mathematical tools behind biological systems like gene control that may be responsible for, say, virus prevention. Okay, last but not least, there's one more article down at the bottom, and I learned something new about this. I knew climate change was a problem. I knew that there was a vaccine out there for the COVID virus. I did not realize that El Salvador had adopted Bitcoin as their legal tender. That is quite an amazing thing. Well, cryptocurrency is around all over the place, and the fundamental algorithms that go underneath cryptocurrency can be learned about in some of our later courses in mathematics. So if we step forward, Math 5248 teaches you the basics of encryption algorithms in a course called Cryptology and Number Theory. It's often taught by a professor, Andrew Adlisko at the University of Minnesota, who is an expert in cryptocurrencies and often gives bonus lectures that you can keep an eye out for if Bitcoin is a particular interest of yours. And I also put the course 5251 down here, error correcting codes, which is a way of communicating data with redundancy. Because these two courses go together in my mind. They use algebra in a strange way to apply to cryptology and error correcting codes. So whether you like analysis, calculus-based concepts, or algebra, there are ways in which that knowledge can impact the world today. So that's all I have. Thanks, Kate, very much for helping me to step through those slides. I just wanted to show you that on every single front page of every single paper, there are ways that math can help you make a big difference in the world. And so that's why I hope you'll consider being math majors.
Thanks, Ben. We did have one question from the audience.
Oh, great.
That I'll throw out to you. I think we can certainly throw it to our panel later. But Lilia was asking, what would research look like for a math major?
That's a great question. I know we have some students on the panel that have done that research, and I'm sure that they can speak to that specifically too. I just wanted to highlight one thing about math research. There are opportunities for mathematics research, and it happens on both sides, you know, of the applied or pure math topics. I think that it's a little different than a lab science where you come with a built-in apparatus for doing experiments. A young person can join into a lab enterprise a little bit easier than they can to a math research experience. I think more commonly in the math department, research is done by approaching a particular professor, and it's more of a one-on-one experience. But we do have lots of those available, and maybe the students could speak later to some of their experiences in that context.
Yeah, most definitely. And we will address that later on too in the program. Thank you so much, Ben. I really appreciate that.
Thanks. I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of the program as
Thanks.
I go dark here.
All right. Let me come back here. And then we also want to hear from our interim director of undergraduate studies, Craig Westerland. So Craig, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Kate. And thanks everyone for being here. I'm glad you're interested in our department. So while Ben talked a bit about why you might want to become a math major or mathematician generally, I might talk a little bit about how people come to the math major. And it's pretty easy to imagine that you just, for a lot of people, that coming to a math major is something that they just knew from early on, that they were good at math and that was the path for them. And that's really not been my experience, nor that of a number of people that I've known. For me, I was a failed astronomy major. I was really excited about physics and astronomy in high school, and definitely pursued astronomy in college. And then after, I took the requisite math courses, and after a while, I was finding myself taking more and more math and finding myself less and less happy with astronomy. And I remember taking a class on observational astronomy where I really just kind of lost it. And at the same time was taking this wonderful class that's sort of the analog of our 4281, the Intro to Modern Algebra. And that was a revelation that we could think about mathematics in the way that we do in algebra. That was a real striking turn for me, and that was the sort of thing that really turned me on to the subject. But I also have a wonderful example of a good friend who came into college as wanting to be a poet, and he succeeded in being a poet for some time, but was taking math classes and eventually ended up pursuing a PhD in mathematics. And I think that he felt, as I think many of us do, that at some point he discovered that mathematics is some of the most creative work that any of us have ever done. And that rather than somehow turning off the part of his brain that was being stimulated as a poet, that indeed he was stimulating the same part of his brain with this sort of work. He's now gone on since then and become an actuary, and really is doing amazing work at a very high level. So it's really can be quite a transition from one kind of field to another over the course of your career. So lastly, I want to go back to someone that I knew in college as well, who was a physics and math double major. And it's a striking thing that I still remember him telling me that, he was one of the brightest people that I think I'd met at that time by far. And he had taken a lot of the curriculum. And I remember him saying at some point that, he was a junior or a senior, and he felt like he had basically seen everything that there is to see in physics. Not that he understood everything, but that he understood the large picture of what was going on in physics. Sorry, but the that experience in physics, he said, at the same time, while there was clearly more to learn, he saw the horizon. Whereas in mathematics, he had just gotten to the point of realizing that the horizon was limitless, that there was no shortage of interesting things to do, and that he felt that he would never get to see all of mathematics. And I wanted to end with that because that was something that he could see in this small college that we went to. And it's something that you can see here at the university, where the boundaries are truly limitless. We have an enormous amount of very talented faculty and instructors with wide interests and an unbelievable number of opportunities to get involved in learning mathematics on any number of stages. So I urge you to get involved in our department, because the ways to be involved are quite broad, and they may not be what you think of as a traditional route into mathematics. Thanks so much, and I'll pass the baton back to Kate.
Let me unmute myself. Thank you so much, Greg. Yeah, there is so much that you can do with math. And I think sometimes for some individuals, having that breadth can lead to some indecision. But what the wonderful thing in working through your math major, meeting with our math faculty and our math faculty advisors, is kind of doing that exploration to find what is a good path for you. And as you're probably learning throughout CSE 1001, there are multiple paths that can get you to where you want to be. There is no one right path, and that exploration can tell you a lot about, about yourself. So let me move into the BA math major and just kind of give a brief overview of what you can expect with the math major. And again, I do like to keep this informal. I've seen a couple of questions come in through chat. So please, if you do have a question, feel free to either put a question to chat or into the Q&A, or even, please, feel free to unmute yourself and ask those questions. So first, I want to emphasize that CSE does promote exploration. The 4-course calculus sequence, almost all of the 20 CSE majors require all of these courses, which coincidentally are also an introductory part of the math major. So what does this mean? What this means for you is that no matter what major you intend in CSE, you still have an open door to whether you want to add a math minor, a double major with math, or even switch to a math major if you're doing some parallel planning. So admission to the math major is relatively simple. It's the first 2 calculus courses, and then either linear algebra and differential equations, or multivariable calculus and vector analysis, plus physics 1 and physics 2. So just the first 3 calculus courses and 2 physics courses. Then you still have the remaining lower division requirements that need to be met. So the other of linear algebra and differential equations or multivariable that you had not taken for admission, you must complete the last of those 4 calculus courses. Then you have a 3rd physics course, except for those who are pursuing the actuarial science specialization. And then a 1000 level computer science programming course, which may be Java, C++, or Python. For math majors, we do encourage that you take Python, but any of these 3 would be a good option. Then, as Ben alluded to in his presentation, Math 3283W, Sequence, Series, and Foundations, is the bridge from our lower division courses to our upper division courses. This is the course in which you'll have an introduction to writing mathematical proofs. And in doing so, you're going to cover in a more rigorous treatment topics that you saw in Calc 1 through multivariable calculus. This is wonderful because it gives you a better foundation as you're moving into those upper division courses. And then speaking of those upper division courses, simply 2 of those will complete a math minor, which coincidentally might also serve as a technical elective in another major. For example, computer science will accept upper division math courses and as a technical elective in their program. So there's ways that as you're designing your program, you can develop that synergy between doing a double major or a major and a minor in different programs. Simply 8 upper division courses are required for the major. You are required to do algebra courses, some analysis, and then a choice of math electives. How you choose those courses is a wonderful conversation to have with the math faculty advisor to understand what your interests are, what your career goals are, and if you're still in that exploration stage, what courses you might take to kind of further along on that path. Now, to help you with that endeavor, math does offer 4 specializations. Those are in actuarial science, computer applications, mathematical biology with either a genomics track or a physiology track, and then math education. So let's talk a little bit more about each of these. In each of these, you still have your 8 upper division math courses, but there are courses in other disciplines that support this particular interest. So in actuarial science, again, 8 upper division math courses, but additional courses in economics, insurance, statistics, finance, and accounting. In completing the actuarial science specialization, you will also have satisfied the requirements of a statistics minor and will be very close to a risk and insurance management minor through Carlson School of Management. So one note, if you're not aware already, you do not need to be admitted to a college to pursue a minor in that college. So it's very easy to add a statistics minor or the risk and insurance management minor. Obviously, the actuarial science specialization is there for students who are looking to become an actuary, but it's not limited to that. If you have any interest whatsoever in financial mathematics, this is a good specialization to either follow or to refer to when you're choosing courses for your math major. We also have computer applications. Again, 8 upper division courses in math. Your technical electives will be upper division courses in computer science. In completion of this particular specialization, you will have satisfied the requirements of a computer science minor. So very easy to add to your record. This particular specialization really is geared for anyone interested in data science, data analytics, computer programming, software programming. That would certainly satisfy or work toward those particular interests. Then we have mathematical biology, and you have a track in either genomics or physiology. And in his introduction, Professor Brubaker noted how, again, this is applying, and we're seeing this today, especially with the COVID pandemic. Now, no surprise with mathematical biology that this will be science heavy. Your additional subject areas, depending upon which track you choose, you'll have biology, chemistry, physics, physiology, genomics, and courses of that nature. But this is great if you're interested in any kind of medical research. And then the last specialization is math education. And I do want to clarify here, this is structured for individuals who are looking to teach in the 5 through 12 level. If you want to teach post-secondary, those are different requirements that would require a grad school and a different path. So the math education specialization will give one the content knowledge to teach in a 5 through 12 level. At that level for teaching, it does require licensure, which is independent of the state that you're in. And that's a separate piece from the content knowledge that you need. And so oftentimes we do advise students to work with our College of Education and Human Development to work on that licensure piece. Let's see, sorry, I'm just got a quick note here. So if you're looking to double major in computer science and math, is there any reason to specialize in computer applications in math, or would the computer science major give you everything the specialization would give you? Great question. And I see OnGod is providing an answer. So I'm going to let OnGod reply to everyone. So OnGod is one of our current math majors who actually is doing I believe a double major in computer science. So I'm gonna let him reply to all of us and get his answer on that. All right.
Should I just speak it out, or?
Yeah, please do, OnGod.
Yeah, all I can say is that I'm majoring in both. And if you are majoring in computer science, you will have everything you need already to have the computer applications minor, except for maybe a few upper division math classes. But otherwise, all the specific stuff will be covered in the computer science major.
Great, thanks so much for that. And so let's see here. So kind of next, kind of leveraging off of those particular specializations, a lot of those specializations have been constructed due to the popularity of what students want to do post-graduation. Now, I just recently pulled from CareerCast the best jobs of 2021. I didn't ask what are the best computer science jobs, what are the best math jobs. I just pulled what are the best jobs of 2021. And here's the list of top 10. I was happily surprised because in past years, I've seen 4 to 5 of these are related to math. And this year, 8 of the 10 actually have, are careers suitable for anyone pursuing a math major. No surprise that data scientist is number 1. I believe that was number 1 or 2 last year. Statistician, number 3. Mathematicians up from number 8 in 2019. University professor continues to be in the top 10. Operations research analyst is up from 9. Information security analyst is somewhat new. Actuary has been in the top 10 for many years, and software engineer is actually a relatively new one to this particular list. So the one thing that I want to emphasize, and kind of as Professor Brubaker illustrated in his evaluation of the front page of the New York Times, is that we see that math is everywhere. We have, basically it boils down to any complex number system can be analyzed using math, which means that we see math in areas of healthcare, business, marketing, entertainment. A lot of our math majors will go on to careers in patent law, software engineering, as we see here, data science, financial analysts, economics, biotechnology, national security, market research, astronomy, space exploration, the list goes on and on. So what it really boils down to is a lot of employers are looking at someone who can design models, answer hard questions, and figure out what those answers are. Especially with the pandemic and so much going online, there's been an increasing need for individuals who can analyze data and assess that and interpret it in a meaningful way. So really the options are somewhat limitless to what you can do. Sharing my personal experience, my undergraduate degree was in business. I did my graduate coursework in mathematics. After briefly teaching at St. Cloud State University, I spent about 9 years in business. And in my area was supply chain. So I was a business analyst at Emation, which was a spinoff of 3M, for about 4 years. And I did 5 years at Target Corporation, working in their supply chain as a business analyst and a global planning analyst. So basically within supply chain, we were looking at demand and supply planning. How much product did we need? What was the right timing for that product? Obviously, you don't want to have warehouses full of product that you're sitting there on, but neither did you want to have empty shelves. So it's all about analyzing the data and the timing and making sure that you have the right product in the right quantity at the right time. That's just one aspect of what you can do with your math major. There's so much that you can do. So I also want to talk a little bit about what you can do outside the classroom, because there's so much more than just taking classes, which obviously is a very critical part of your major. But you can get involved in other ways through participation in clubs like the Math Club, Actuarial Club. There's also Women in Mathematics. They put on a 4-day program every January called Mathematics Project at Minnesota, which is there to serve underrepresented students in STEM. So that's a wonderful opportunity. That project is put on with support from both the head of the school, from the School of Math, as well as from SIAM. And speaking of which, we do have a student chapter of SIAM here on the campus. And we have a problem solving club. And I'm going to segue that into our math competitions. So that problem solving club does help students who want to participate in math competitions such as Putnam, MUDAC, or the MAA. and CS team competition, which happens right here, typically in Minnesota. I think I've seen it, I think perhaps at St. Olaf in recent years. Obviously with the COVID pandemic, I think it's been via Zoom or virtual in the past year or so. As mentioned earlier, there's also research opportunities, which consist of UROP. Oftentimes summer REUs are very popular with our math majors. We do have a combinatorics REU here on the campus at the University of Minnesota, but you can also go to other colleges and universities throughout the nation and participate in REUs depending on the topic. Directed studies with a math professor is an option, as well as undergraduate math research seminars. I'm also really excited about a program that our math graduate students oversee, and it's a directed reading program. So it allows our undergraduate students to be paired one-on-one with our graduate students to do a deeper dive on a topic that they're interested in. And it also gives you that network of creating a connection with the graduate student and kind of, I guess getting options to talk with them more about graduate programs and what they do, and getting insight to what it means to be a graduate student in math. And then lastly, we do have opportunities within the undergraduate math office for students to act as a teaching assistant, a paper grader, or exam proctor. And again, you can find that information on the undergraduate math website, or contact our undergraduate math office to apply. And speaking of the undergraduate math office, if you're on campus, feel free to stop in and visit us. We are in 115 Vincent Hall, first floor of Vincent Hall on the south side. Again, you can reach us via email at ugrad. If you do have any questions, after this presentation, feel free to send them my way. My email is there. It's lewisk@umn.edu. And do explore our website at csc.umn.edu/math, we just recently revamped our website, and you might find a lot of your questions might be answered there. I also want to emphasize that the School of Math does have a math faculty advising model, which I think is extremely valuable. For course planning, you'll have access to math faculty. We have 2 dedicated individuals for our actuarial science program, and another 4 who work with our undergraduate math majors. Dr. Greg Musiker actually specializes with our honor students, but is open to meeting with all of our math majors. So obviously they bring to the forefront their personal experience in the math major, the math courses themselves. If you have questions about grad school, internships, research, all of them are more than happy to share their experience and offer guidance to you. And then myself as departmental advisor. So let's see here. So I see a question about the Math Problem Solving Club. So they do meet regularly. You should find those days. I can't remember off the top of my head what dates and times they do meet, but that information is our website. I think once we get the panel up and running, let me see if I can find that information for you. And so without further ado, I do want to turn to our undergraduate math panel right now. We have 7 individuals here for you. Again, some of them are pursuing math without this specialization. Some are doing computer applications, mathematical biology, or actuarial science. Some have experience with research and internships. So we're going to open the panel up. And so if our panelists can turn on their cameras and unmute yourself. We're going to get started off with, we're going to kick it off with, if you can describe your path to becoming a math major in CSE, and perhaps your transition from those lower division calculus courses to the upper division math courses, if you have some guidance for our math students. And if you will too, let them know if you are pursuing a particular specialization. And Angad, I'm going to kick it off with you.
Yeah, so I will say that while I've switched my major probably more times than anyone I've met, math is the one thing I came here and stuck with. That being said, though, as far as transitioning, I took most of my introductory calculus stuff in high school, so I don't know if I'm the best person to talk about as transition from, but I will say sequence and series was a little bit of a shift in that the way you approach math is a little bit different than what you're used to in high school, and then a little bit in in the calculus courses. But I think it was a really enjoyable class.
Great, thanks. Caitlin, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Caitlin. I am actually double majoring in math and chemistry, so I don't have a specialization. But I always knew I wanted to be a math major. So like ever since I was little, I was solving puzzles and doing Stukus, and the applications of that to the math major just kind of led me to know that that's what I wanted to do. And yeah, in a similar way, series and sequences was definitely a little bit of a different thought process than the math that I was used to, but it kind of like opens the doors to more exploration in math, and it kind of lets you take different paths than what you're used to, which is really cool to kind of learn how you can do that.
Great, thanks. Grant, I see you next. If you want to chime in.
Hello, yeah, I'm Grant. I initially started out in mechanical engineering, actually, and now I've kind of transitioned to both being a math major and a mechanical engineer with more of a plan on going to graduate school for mathematics. Ever since I was young, maybe like a couple years old, when my mom was teaching me how to do addition with little flashcards, I knew I loved mathematics. And so that's kind of where I've been ever since that. I would say the transition to upper division mathematics is mostly in just that in calculus, and ever since middle school, elementary school, high school, it's been a lot of do this problem, here's a formula, use this formula, solve for this variable. And everything in upper division, I mean, there are some classes that are still like that, but a lot of it more is big picture, big thinking. How do you prove this kind of theorem, or how do you prove this other thing? Not necessarily plug and chug and move on from there.
Great. And see, Trent, I see you there.
Yeah, so I'm Trent. I don't have a specialization technically, but I realized I was gonna be a math major back in high school. Originally, I thought I wanted to be an engineer because I liked math, and I did a lot of like competitive mathematics in high school and middle school, and so I really enjoyed that stuff. I realized at some point I didn't really want to be an engineer for various reasons. And just decided I was going to be a math major after that, and here we are. I'd say like the transition is, I think Grant put it very well. It's very like different kinds of problems are in the upper division courses. I definitely think like those intro to proofs courses are very helpful for figuring out how to get from where you are at now probably to doing the more upper division courses. Yeah.
Great, thanks. And before I go to our next panelist, I do just want to mention to our audience, please feel free to use this time if you have questions to put those either into the Q&A or chat for our panelist. And then let's see, Ben, I'm going to turn it over to you next.
Hi, my name is Ben, and I am a math major with the actuarial concentration. And I figured out that I liked math when I was like 3 years old. My parents were always watching basketball games, and then I was like, oh, I can add the scores together. And then I got really good at it, so I started subtracting, and then I started multiplying. So that's how I got into math. And coming into college, I thought I might do math, but I wasn't fully sold on it. But after taking some classes, I realized that I liked it, and I specifically liked the actuarial concentration as it has more of an applied kind of financial focus. As far as advice for switching to the classes, I just say that, like other people have mentioned, it just takes a different type of thinking. It takes a lot more creativity. So I'm a pretty straight to the point type of person where I like having a routine, and it does take some getting used to have to be creative in different ways.
Great, thanks for sharing. Annika.
Yeah, so I knew in high school that I liked, or at least I was good at math. People told me I was good at math, kind of, and I really liked biology too. And so my initial goal, like coming into college, I wanted to work kind of in biotech. But then I realized I really didn't want that. And I saw that the U had a math bio specialization. So that's what I came in with, and I've stuck with that. But also I've kind of branched out, and I've taken a lot of the pure math classes in addition to the applied math classes, and liked them just as much, if not more. And I will say I was absolutely terrified of 3283W when I came into it. I was so nervous. I was like, I've never done this before. And my only exposure was like 9th grade geometry proofs, which I hated so much. But then I got into the class and I really enjoyed it. I think I had a really, really good professor, and my TA was really good. And it just kind of, yeah, went from there.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing. And Emma.
Thanks. Hi, yeah, I'm Emma, and I also have the actuarial specialization. How did I get into the math major? Kind of like everybody else. I liked math growing up. I was good at it. In high school, I was kind of thinking like, what could you do with math? And so like Trent, it's like, oh, I can be an engineer. So I was an engineering major first, and within probably a month of freshman year, I was like, yeah, no, I just can't do this. And so I switched to the actuarial specialization, and it's been great since. And then I guess for the transition to the upper level classes, kind of like everybody said, it's just a little bit more practice and a little more like thought provoking. But I do think as you've gone throughout math your whole life, it's progressively just getting a little bit harder, and you're able to deal with it. And I wouldn't say it's anything you should be afraid of. It kind of just, as long as you put the work in, the effort in, it'll be fine.
Great, thanks so much. So I want to go back to a topic that our audience did raise earlier regarding research. In Trent, I believe you have some research background, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
sorry.
Yeah, so I was going to say, I think it's an area that oftentimes people are interested in, but they don't know how to start. So perhaps you can share, what was your strategy for pursuing research, and any advice?
There are a lot of research experiences for undergraduates in mathematics across the country. I was applying to a bunch of those, and the year that COVID happened last summer, there was a new one that like kind of just happened in May called the Polymath REU, which is a really, really, really big REU. Most REUs have like 30 kids at a max. Some only have like 9. I say kids, I mean like undergraduates. But the Polymath REU, like the year I was there were like 200 or 300 undergraduates. I think Ben was one of the professors who works on the Polymath REU. I got started with research there that summer, doing a project with Professor Eunice Satunsu from Dearborn, Michigan, I think, doing operator theory, a very particular thing. I'm not going to talk about it now. But the point is like, Polymath REU is great. You totally apply for it. It's amazing. They've got a lot of projects that are, very easy for undergraduates, even with just like, I don't know about just Calculus 1 and Calculus 2, but like at least with just Calc 3, Calc 4, and the sequences and series course to get invested in. Another good way is like the directed reading program. You can get a lot of like really advanced knowledge from those things very quickly. And from there, you can say, meet graduate students and learn about, maybe get in on their kinds of projects, or talk with professors about those same things and get a research project from that. It's a whole bunch of different ways.
Great, thanks. Yeah, and I see Ben put a link on there, so check it out. So we have another question from our audience, and anyone can, please respond. But the question is like, I really enjoy calculus, but proving things in theorems are kind of boring to me. And I've heard that math at the university is mostly proving theorems. So I don't know whether I want to double major in it or not. Thoughts thoughts for this particular student? Anyone love theorems?
I can speak on this one. Yeah. So I am a little bit different given that I have the actuarial specialization, but the math major really offers a lot of flexibility. So for me personally, I've had maybe like 2 or 3 classes that have a lot of those proofs. And even one I'm taking now, the cryptology class that someone alluded to earlier, it's not just like proving some random theorem you're never going to use. It's like you feel like you're cracking a code. So it's like if you pick the right classes, you're going to be able to do them in such a way that you're not just feeling like you're proving useless theorems, because I also feel the same way. And there's definitely a lot of options. You just have to be strategic about which classes you take.
Yeah, great answer. I mean, because depending upon what you do, there's more applied, and then you have the pure math too. So it's a matter of kind of exploring and finding which courses do interest you and what you want to do.
Also speak on this a little bit.
Yeah.
I also enjoy more of like the actual math than the proofs, but I find in a lot of the courses, we talk about proofs like as a large group with the whole course, and we kind of go through the proofs of these theorems, and then the actual work that you do individually on exams and homeworks, the things that you apply is more of using that theorem rather than proving it again. So there are some courses that are heavy on proofs, but a lot of them tend to be a small portion of proofs and the rest of it is not. So
Great, thanks.
Another thing,
Caitlin.
sorry, like the proofs that are mentioned here of theorems, these are like the tools that you're going to be using to prove, to do things in a similar way using tools of calculus. And I mean, obviously you have to have some understanding of how they work to apply them, which is where proofs come in. But you are not proving random things just for the sake of proving random things. These are relevant to what you're doing. These are advancing your toolbox, so to speak.
Thank you. Yeah, so true, so true. So we have another question, and I'm not sure if our panelists, if this would fit either any of you, but the question is, what's it like double majoring in a major outside of CSE, such as economics, political science, or climatology? I can certainly address this, but does anyone of our panelists have insight as well, or?
I am a minor in Spanish, so I know it's not the same as a double major. And at least for me, I actually can find connections with the math major in Spanish. So I specifically took the linguistics course, which is kind of like just using math in a language way, because it's all about like how letters fit together, how sentences fit together. And it's basically just using math. So even if your double major is not like a science-based class, it's still very applicable to the techniques you learn in math, whether it is kind of an application or just the problem solving skills that you learn from the math major. It definitely does help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I even, what resonated to me too, I think was Professor Ben, or no, maybe it was Craig, had mentioned, kind of alluded to that left brain, right brain. I also find that it seems as though a lot of our majors also have a musical interest too. But as far as, there is actually a lot of synergy with math and economics, climatology, political science. We do have a lot of individuals who are either doing a double major in econ and math or a major in minor, because you do find that there's a lot of data that you are assessing and interpreting. Similarly with climatology, oftentimes, again, when you do a math major, because you get to pick and choose the courses that you want to satisfy the areas of algebra analysis in your electives, there's a lot of variability in the courses that you can take. And again, you can kind of pick and choose those depending upon what your interests are, such as climatology, and what courses might lend itself most to that particular area. So there's a lot of way that you can customize your math major. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to read this one out loud. We got another question. The question, let's see, a question that has bothered me for a while. If you can derive a formula but have trouble memorizing it, does it still mean you are a good mathematician? So is good math more memory oriented, or your ability to derive things when you need them, even though it might take time? Anyone want to take a stab at that one?
I can try. I'm in 2 classes right now, and they're both pretty equation heavy, and my professors tell us all the time, like, don't just memorize this, don't just memorize this, understand why you're using it, and make sure if you can't remember it, that you can come back and kind of figure it out on your own. So I would say memorizing is not advised, because then at some point, are you really understanding what you're doing? So I don't think you should be afraid of being a math major if you can't remember every equation or formula you need.
Yeah, great answer, Emma.
I'd like to say, if you are majoring in something like finance, like I was, you'll come across they'll give you a lot of formulas, which are kind of a little more, I guess, abstract, and that you kind of just have to know them. But even then, it's not really a memorization game in any capacity. So
I think just to add on to all that, it's a lot more focused on, being able to solve problems or how to creatively attack some other situations too, which has nothing to do with memorizing formulas or anything like that.
Mhm. Great. So we have another question here. It says, do most people go to grad school if they have a bachelor's degree in math? Are there job opportunities for just a bachelor's degree? So let me address this just from the standpoint of, if you do go into CSE, under their career fair, they do have a really informative sheet, which you may have already discovered in CSE 1001, or you will, but it's what can I do with a major in, and it's there for all of the 20 majors within CSE. You'll find that for math, that approximately 60% of our majors will go on to employment. About, I want to say another 35% will go on to grad school. So that's just a general number of what our alumni have gone on to do. For our panelists here, anyone who has a particular interest or design in going to grad school versus employment, do you want to share what your plans are?
I'm graduating this spring and I'm going to be employed right after. I'm not going to grad school.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing. I'm graduating in the spring and starting working.
Yeah, which for actuarial science students is pretty popular. And then I don't know if either of you, but with our McFam office, which is our mathematics of financial and applied mathematics, a lot of our students, there is a finance master's that they can go on to do. So a lot of our actual science students will have continuing education through their certification within their field, but then they can also come back and do graduate programs. Angad, are you going on to a graduate program or?
not sure yet. I'm applying both right now. But I'm also majoring in computer science, and most of my job opportunities are kind of oriented towards that. So
you really have, yeah, the door is open for you, whichever route you want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also have a job lined up, and I am very interested in grad school, also law school, but I would like to work a couple years first. So it is easy to get a job. I mean, easy. It is possible to get a job right after undergrad, and you can always go back to grad school too. It's a great opportunity to do either one. So.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Caitlin. Yeah, it is. There's lots of opportunities. So I think I'm trying to recall who mentioned this in our intro, but we have a question from Lillian asking, for previous engineering majors, why did you move away from engineering towards math?
I previously majored in biomedical engineering. Okay. I majored in math pretty much because I like more problem solving and less applying formulas.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut anybody off. I just didn't really like the labs. I know that's what a lot of your major will be if you're an engineer. And so I liked a lot more of the problem solving math side of the engineering major. And I thought I could get more of that by just being a math major.
Mm-hmm. I think the big shift for me that I had is, well, I guess prior to this, ever since being young, I enjoyed teaching a lot. And then when I was more focused on mechanical engineering, through college, and the very first summer I got an internship. And I kind of sat down after halfway through the internship and I said, is this really what I want to do? I'm not really super happy at all with what I'm doing. And so that's kind of where, wanting to do something for most of your life, switching it towards the end and then going, I don't really want to do engineering. And so I kind of focused more on math afterwards because of that.
Thanks for sharing, Grant, because yeah, you brought up another really important topic, which is internships. And now internships might better inform that, hey, this is the path for you, or perhaps you want to go in a different direction. Ben, I think have you also done internships, or anyone else want to speak to their experience with internships and how that perhaps solidified your interest or perhaps pointed you into a new direction?
Yeah, I can speak on that. I did 2 summer internships with Travelers, which is an insurance company based in St. Paul, and that's the company that I'm actually going to be working with after college. And when I started my first internship, I wasn't fully convinced on exactly what I wanted to do, but the internship made me feel good about my choice, and that's led me to stay on this path and kind of become an actuary after college. And it's kind of getting them. It's stressful, but there's also a lot of luck involved, and also like, I don't know, you have to try really hard sometimes, but it's totally worth it whether it works out or not.
So for Grant and Ben, and anyone else who's done internships, how did you find those internships? Any recommendations or advice for finding an internship?
I went to the career fair. The very first internship I had, I knew a lot of people through the club I was in, the school club I was in. And so they were going to move on. They were going to graduate and work there. And so they had an opening for me. And then the year after, I got another internship by just going to the career fair and talking to people.
Great.
I can speak to that too. I had an internship this summer, and the Actuary Club has a lot of companies that come in. So that's kind of cool where you kind of get a hands-on experience with them, get to meet people face to face, kind of like the career fair. And then also if you just go on Handshake, there's so many companies looking for interns, not even just in the Twin Cities, but everywhere. So that's also a great resource as well.
Yeah. Hey, Emma, can you put a plug in for the Actuary Club? So what do you find valuable? What can you expect if you join the Actuary Club?
Yeah, so the Actuary Club, they meet, I think, Tuesday, Thursdays, kind of around internship interview season, and then they meet once a week. They do anything from bring companies in and they talk to you and kind of try to promote working for them, or we have just like study nights or kind of just getting to know people in the major. I know being a freshman in CSE, it seems pretty big, but as you kind of get into your upper level classes, you tend to see the same people. So it's nice to kind of meet some of them right off the bat, kind of have a connection when you see people in class. Yeah.
Great, great. So along those lines, we just had a quick question come in. I know we got a few minutes here. So someone asked, could everyone else talk about one club they found interesting? And I'm going to throw it out, please. Any club, doesn't have to be math related. Any club that you would that you found interesting that you'd probably advise someone to check out.
I'm a member of a Formula SE team here, Go for Motorsports. We build a Formula style race car. This is more kind of oriented towards, I mean, the primary core of this is like mechanical and aerospace engineering. But I mean, I have a lot of fun with it, and there are a lot of things that I find applicable to me there to do. I think it's a lot of fun. So if you're into cars and stuff, give it a shout out, give it a look.
Yeah, and you don't have to be a mechanical engineering student to be in the club, do you?
Nope.
No. Trent, did you have one?
I do. So I'm a member, I'm one of the officers even of the Bridge Club here at the University of Minnesota. We do not make bridges, we play the card game Bridge. If you're not familiar with the card game Bridge, it's a fairly complex card game. A lot of people compare it to chess in terms of like strategic difficulty and that kind of thing. I find it really fun. I've been playing for 2.5 years now. It's a wonderful, wonderful game. Really low cost of entry. It's just, you got to learn a lot very, very quickly. not necessarily quickly, but you do have to learn. There's a steep learning curve is what it's a lot of fun, highly recommend. If you don't know whether you know how to play bridge or not, you can come to the bridge club and learn. Alternatively, there's an honors nexus experience that you can take to learn bridge as well if you're in the honors program. But even regardless of whether or not you are, you can always come down to the club and we'll just sit you down and start to teach you.
Great, thanks so much. So
Can
I
I
think,
say something real quick?
yeah, please do.
I just want to answer that question. I'm actually in the marching band, which is so much fun. I play the clarinet, and it's totally doable to do something that takes up like 10 to 20 hours a week that's not in your major and still make it work. So if you're interested in doing like something like that, or even like an intramural sport, it's totally possible with the math major.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing. So I probably saw you at Convocation, Ben. That was wonderful. Well, great. I think we got everyone's questions answered. I see it's 5 o'clock and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Thank you again for attending the math information session. If you do have any follow-up questions for me or even for our panel, please send them to me. My email is lewisk@umn.edu. Feel free to drop me a line or come visit. And thank you to everyone for joining us today.